Dear diarrhea full of shit. Just play along, me, myself, and I, and no one else. Yeah, I'm so legit. Like I said, I'm kind of doing an experiment with this Ruby de Rose, which is probably not her real name, and all that. I would hope not, because there's a lot of creepers out there. And especially if she is married and she's like traditional and took the last name of her husband, well, then that drags him into the mix, if you got some creeper, who wants to find out information about him and use it to do annoying or bad things. So like I said, I wanted to kind of like see if it was just AI, which I suspect, it is. Because there's just too much interaction, you know what I mean? I mean, I could send, it's like blatantly obvious. I could, respond to these questions or whatever at 2 o'clock in the morning, and at 2:05, I'd get a response, which is, just AI, generated. So I was kind of going to be like, just kind of troll her, but in like a, polite way or whatever, for lack of a better word. Like that whole, I sent you this picture or this video, I might unsend it, so be sure and, watch it while you still can or something, it's like, okay, whatever. So I sent her a message, and I'm not tipping her anymore, because, I don't want to get too crazy with the cheese whiz. But I said, you're dumb. Do you do requests? And I said, sure, but it's I can't send it for free. So I said, keep it simple. How much would it cost for a vid of you squeezing a tennis ball between your ass cheeks? Gone with your ass now. You know you want to. And I also said, if it's over $30, I'm not renewing my subscription, because I kind of wanted to flip it on her, And I got a response, 25 to $30 sounds good, or whatever. And then later it said, should I send it now? So I typed Gawhead, GAW space HEAD, which is kind of a weird way, to kind of like trick up, that might trick up an algorithm, but it won't trick up AI. So I got a video. It's like fucking like 10 seconds, 15 at tops. It's low key, it's just like, and it's not of her squeezing a tennis ball between her ass cheeks. And it says, said something like, I don't know, here, enjoy this video of me playing with my pussy or something like that. I don't remember. It was like a paragraph, and it was her just sort of in some see-through shit, and just whatever. It's low key. You can hear like she's got the TV on in the background. She's just sort of fucking around in bed, just whatever. Something that would make, a simp motherfucker feel like, oh gosh, she just, I just got a personalized video, and it had nothing to do with what my quote-unquote request was. Because I figured that's something simple, you know what I mean? It's nothing too, like, whatever. But, and then just now, again, the way that it's set up, I mean, it's like, it's fucking late, dude. God, it's like 11 o'clock, mountain time. I don't know where this broad lives. For some reason, I want to say Texas, but I'm not quite sure. Could be California. But I don't know why I think Texas, but maybe California, maybe Nevada, Arizona, someplace where the weather's nice. She lives in a nice house. It's got a big ass fucking, in-ground pool, and it looks to be a big ass hot tub, like a hot tub that could comfortably seat like 20 people, if that is indeed a hot tub that I'm looking at back there. It was in her, because like I said, I think, she posts, every couple days, like 3 shorts. And maybe once a month she'll post a video that's like anywhere from, I don't know, 7 to 10 minutes long, and it's just a compilation of all of her shorts. So this girl's, just in it, just trying to rake some money in. Even if it, fizzles out, I believe she's probably just doing it for the money, probably not doing it for the praise, so if everybody just, like woke up and was like, this is AI bullshit, fuck you, whore, this, that, and the other. You're not going to catch me, pulling that ankle biter bullshit. Every chick is sitting on a gold mine. If you want to make that decision and put your face out there, now it's not her name, like I said, fake name, probably a fake age, this, that, and the other. She's not really giving too much of the game away, as far as like showing her house and location and stuff like that. It's all just, okay, fine, she's got a nice house. That's a pretty big backyard, and that's a pretty big damn pool. I bet it's got lights in it and everything, and whatever. That's no big deal. But I'm not that guy. It's not. That's the world we live in, man. If like I said, I paid $9.99. Now I'm not gonna pay any more. But I did it just out of curiosity. And like I said, I've sent a few tips, to kind of expedite things. And okay, we'll play the game. We'll see what happens here. The tips don't matter because she's not interacting with that. Those tips go to her bank account. But, or her account, whatever, and then she transfers it or whatever her system is to get that bread. But, anyway, yeah, so I'm not hating on a bitch, for doing that. I'm not that guy. It's like Mr. Longhead says, it's just like, it's a feature, not a bug. It's just sort of the way of the world. Like I said, her husband probably thinks it's great because it's not her engaging with anybody. It's all AI. Like I said, every couple days she'll upload, she'll make a 30-second video, segment it into 3 10-minute shorts, load that, every couple days on her YouTube. Once a month or so, every, 4 to 6 weeks, post a compilation of her shorts just to kind of get that shit going. And then her spicy content, like I said, it's all set up, automated shit. So she's got, a bunch of, videos and pictures and stuff that are all just cached or whatever the word is. And they're triggered, by messages and money and this, that, and the other. And she probably checks that maybe once a day, at best, maybe even once a week. And it is just all, she doesn't have to do a damn thing. She loves her husband. Like I said in that other audio presentation, it's like this isn't where she's actually talking or interacting legitimately. It is all AI. They're both laughing all the way to the bank. So, and like I said, they've got some of my money. So it's like, what you're not understanding me here. This is a temporary, deal here. But anyway, and she charged me 25, not 30, or the algorithm, because I had said if it's over $30, I'm walking, which I'm walking anyway. But she doesn't know that. But so she says, 25 to 30. again, it's AI, not algorithm, so it's a little bit more, in tune, quote unquote, with what's being said. But and then, like I said, the way the technology is set up, I watched it, and yeah, boy, that is a vagipus that has not had kids. But anyway. What the fuck was I going to say next? Oh, so it's immediately, like after I watched the video, the system is set up, at 11 o'clock at night, Mountain Time, mind you. You got me excited now. Should I take it to the next level for you? And I suspect that that's all it would be, is just more intense, videos. Although the first one was her supposedly, inserting a dildo into her vagina. So I don't know. And this one was just sort of a playful little, so I don't know what taking it to the next level would mean. But anyway, I think my experiment has come to a conclusion. Shit, man. Like I said, at least make it a little bit. But she's run the numbers. This is not a praise thing for her. It's probably set up. Whoever's responsible for that, I got to give them credit. The response, at any time, that's like blatantly obvious. And there's only so much you can do, gee, do you do requests within reason? Or are you just going to keep dishing out, pre-made, just vague, short little videos, And that might work for a lot of people, but anyway. Because she's probably already made a shit ton of money, and it's not going to hurt her feelings. Hey, remember that time, Boo Bear, where I did this thing for like 6 months, 3 months? It was, we were raking it in, for the first 3 months, and then it slowed down over the next 3 months. And, but for 6 months, she's had passive income, yeah, damn. I mean, I'll have to look at, I don't know if it shows how many subscribers she has on this fan page or whatever. And I don't know if she would get money through YouTube, because she doesn't do advertising. And I think that's the only way that you can get your channel monetized, is if you have advertising. So I'm not sure how it works, actually. Maybe I should look into that out of curiosity. So, like I said, the example I gave in my other audio presentation, her hubby bear is probably a well-to-do, established dude, so they're secure. And she's just put it into hyperspace drive, for like, 3 months or 6 months, you know what I mean? So basically she's making it, like they've won the lottery, 2 or 3 times. Thanks, babe. That was swell. Boy, I really lucked out when I, stumbled across you. You know what I mean? There's no bullshit. She ain't talking or interacting with any of these suckers and losers. So good on her. Am I jealous? No. Because I'm not a chick, with an ass like that. Am I envious? Yes. There's a difference between envy and jealousy. Jealousy is bad. Envy, like you know what? I'm not sure if even that's the right word. It's like, you know what I mean? Like, wow. God damn, shit. It's not very good for building character, but shit. So, fuck, you can't hate on a person for doing that. So, but a lot of people do. So, I guess that's all I got to say, bye. So Katie Boo, sweet future wife of mine, like I said, if it turns out that you can't have kids because you got an old dusty uterus because you fucked around and wasted so much time for whatever reason, anxiety, can't find the right wonder boy, this, that, and the other, whatever your reasons are, that a girl who looks as pretty as you, who is as pretty as you, that sounded wrong, who is as pretty as you, and stunning and beautiful at an upper age like that, why do you not have a man is beyond me. And I'd say, well, it must be fate, But then there's that whole troll, I don't do shit like that, and this is complete and utter fucking bullshit thing that keeps coming back into play. So I'm perplexed. I might need to talk to a therapist. But anyway, I've talked to therapists a few times over the years, due to my upbringing, my parents, like I said, maybe like, and like with the rehab, terms and conditions, you got to do this. And with the DUI, that was classes, so that doesn't really, but yeah, I absolutely, because I remember, I wasn't like arrogant or anything. It's like, I don't need to be here. In fact, there was a lot of therapists who would say that along the lines, it's like, you're smart. You're switched on. You're on point. It's like, you just told me exactly what I would tell you, so why do you drink? Because I want to. Because I walked upstairs and there was a guy with no hair and a leather jacket who was a fucking schmuck who was doing things for the wrong reasons. He was doing it for the glory. So that dude's probably living in the fucking streets right now. A transporter for an addict, and he had to slink off to the bathroom to smoke a cigarette in the airport. Dude, you are full of shit. Man. But that's why I'm here. But anyway, so it's like, okay, I got to talk to this guy, blah, blah, blah. Look, I know what you're going to say. And the one guy, like I said, when I left, all the girls, when I showed up, everybody's standoffish. And the one chick, dude, just chill, shove it up your ass, don't tell me what to do, this, and all that shit that I already said. And that literally, like, all of them would give me the come hither look. I'm not trying to exaggerate or be funny, and I thought that was kind of cute. And the one girl just asked me, it's like, I wasn't trying to win you over, I was just talking. You might as well be a tree stump to me. I'm telling you how it is. And she was looking at me like she wanted to have my baby. The same thing with Mrs. Rehab, and all of a sudden she realized that I was someone who she could trust and felt comfortable around. And she started talking different, walking different, acting different. And just her whole demeanor changed. What in the hell? The dude, like the main therapist dude who was assigned to me, even him, it was kind of cute. He came in and kind of gave me this speech, and he's like, man, I was expecting you to get all mad and put your fist through the wall. And I was like, dude, I would never do that. Like, seriously, really? Like, have I had any put my fist through the wall? That was like, what? Because I had a few things, where I would, I'd yell at people and, like in meetings, I'd be like, I have something to say, you two fuckers need to fuck off, blah, blah, blah. And, hey, I'm running the show here. And afterwards, the guy was like, you can't do that. But it's one of those things where it's like, I had to do that, I'm a macho, manly, burly boy. These two assholes are disrespecting me, but it's not even that. It's just like, you asshole. And I wasn't aggressive or using bad language, but it's like, you just calm the fuck down. So anyway. And I said that with the one guy, it's either you or you. I think it's you, but I got to throw both of you under the bus, So, and the dude's wife was in the kitchen, and she couldn't take her eyes off me the whole time, because she's married to this meth head, who doesn't have his shit together. And then she sees this alcoholic sitting over here who just commands, and takes charge, of a group meeting, and calls two schmucks out, So anyway, whatever. Although he wasn't really a schmuck. Like, they played a joke on him where they put the shaving cream on his hand and, like, itched his face. And he, like, immediately, he, like, punched this guy. He had a black eye, so it backfired. So he actually wasn't, really a schmuck. You know what I mean? But, anyway. Why did I mention that? Oh, yeah. So, I was actually kind of nervous. I thought you were going to get all mad and put your fist to the wall. And I was like, I never did that. And he was like, give me a hug, So I said, okay. So, because that one girl, she was a mom. She had 2 kids. She came up and gave me a hug. And she's like, thanks for all your wisdom. Her name was Shemaine. And I called her Shemaine, because I give everybody nicknames. And she's always, if anybody else called me that, I'd beat their ass. And she wasn't like a black chick. I'd beat their ass. She was a white chick. But I said, I'll call you by her name. I don't remember what she said, but she's like, you're different. So, and then what's her name? She's like, I like the way you say things. So, whatever. Like I said, that was a unique experience. I was there for 2 months. Somebody actually said it was like a reality TV show, because there was a mixture of guys and gals. There was a little bit of drama. There was a little bit of comedy, a little bit of this, a little bit of that. So, had a beer on the flight home, and here I am now. So, I need you in my life, boo thing. Too bad I'm just a troll and shit. Oh, well.